Tea time. Did you hear the story about the woman who was sentenced to more than 20 years in prison? She knew she had did the crime, so she was willing to do the time, and she said she's going to keep a low profile and stay out of trouble. But while she was in prison, there was a male correction officer who was in there, and he was known for being an a-hole. And he also had a wife who was assigned to the same block, and she was known for being an a-hole. So the woman was like, oh my gosh, if I just stay out of their way, nothing gonna happen. Well, one day, the male correction officer comes to her and takes away her necklace. Now, she's like, I have a receipt for this. It's totally legal and legit in here. There's no reason for him to take my stuff. So she goes and files a report against him. And it's found that he did take it away illegally and unlawfully, so she was able to get it back. But after that, his wife was looking at her with the side eye. Well, one day she was just chilling in her cell, just hanging out. And then the wife, the female correction officer, comes inside and says, hey, stand up, get up, pop your locker. You're going to have a shakedown. So she was like, oh my gosh, okay, no problem. She know she wasn't doing anything, and had no problems. So she popped the locker and stood to the side like, go ahead, search it, do what you need to do. So the corrections officer looks at her, goes to a locker, and after a second, she comes out and pulls out a ring box. And the inmate was like, what? Where did she get that from? Because I know I don't have no ring box. And the correction officer walks outside, stands in front of the office, and says, look what we found here, and pulls out a baggie of grass. And she's like, I don't do nothing like that. I don't smoke nothing like that. I don't know where she got that from. And the corrections officer was like, you going to lockdown. And she was like, what? And sure enough, they took her to lockdown for possession. And she was sitting in there like, I cannot believe this. As they closed that door, clank, they locked her in by herself, solitary confinement. And she's like, oh my gosh, I got to figure out how to get out of here because these people have it in for me. Well, the next day she was allowed to file another report, and she wrote down what happened and asked them to please review it. And they did. They came back to her and said that once they reviewed the footage, they saw that the woman had actually planted the grass inside her locker, and they saw it on camera. Well, she was so grateful and feeling so good. And then when she heard that they fired the woman, she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so relieved. I'm just trying to do my time with no issues. I don't want to have no problems. But she's still in lockdown. They haven't even released her yet. And one night she's there, she's sleeping. It's like 2 or 3 in the morning, and she hears a familiar sound. She hears clink. It's the sound of her cell door opening. And she's pretending like she's asleep, she didn't hear it. And she's squinting and looking through the dark to see who's coming into her cell. And it's a male figure. And when she opens her eyes a little bit more, she sees that it's the female's husband, the one who got fired, the initial one who stole her necklace. It's him. He's coming into her cell in the middle of the night. And she's laid there asleep, trying to play it off. And she sees him reaches into his pocket and puts the handcuffs on his fist like it was a pair of brass knuckles. And he's standing over her, and she's thinking to herself, Lord, please, I don't want to get in trouble. If I hit this man, I am going to add more years to my sentence, and I want to get out. I have things I want to do with my life. This ain't the end for me. Lord, please do something, because if this man hit me, I'm going to hit him back. As the man stood over her menacingly and she managed to keep her cool, all of a sudden you hear a voice say, hey, what's going on in there? It's a female correction officer coming to check. She looks inside and he's like, oh, we're just looking around. No big deal. Just doing a quick check. And he takes the cuffs off his hand and backs out the door. And he's staring at her. And the door closes slowly. Clink. And she's thinking to herself, Lord, you got to help me get out of this. Protect me from this man, because even though she had the issue with the woman was fired. This man have access to her anytime. So the next day she decides to file another report. She writes down what happened, and they give her a meeting with someone. And the woman's like, well, what happened? And she's like, look, I don't want to be snitching or talking about anybody, but I want to know, like, if this man is going to retaliate against me for what happened with his wife and what happened with him before, I need to know that it's okay for me to hit him back, because I don't want to add nothing more to my sentence. I'm trying to do right in here. But if he hit me, I can't stand there and just let him touch me like that. And the woman's like, you know what? I understand it's fair. We can't watch everything that happens. But I will tell you this. If you give me a recorded statement of what you're saying right now, we'll at least have it on record. So if he ever touches you and you do have to hit him back, you'll be protected for it. And she said, okay, bet. So she gives her the recording and goes back to lockdown. And as they close the door, click. She thinks to herself, yeah, if he come back, I got him.